Psalm 23. God has set a table for two. One chair for himself, the king, and the second one, believe it or not, is for you. But of course, the enemy wants a seat at the table too. Anxiety wants a seat, envy wants a seat, worry and frustration want a seat. But don't give the enemy a seat at your table. Look up, go up. You're invited up the mountain of God. Move towards infinite power, splendor, love, and beauty, healing and restoration. When we gaze upon the Almighty, we are changed by the captivation. Empowered to take every thought captive in the battle of the mind. Shame is silenced by His glory, and our future redefined. So draw near to Jesus. The shepherd is good. Our God is faithful. Take the place prepared for you. And don't give the enemy a seat at your table.
Aha! So Airpeace has now commenced direct flights to Dakar, Freetown, and Banjul from Lagos. Yeah, so start planning your trip, cause Airpeace got you. Lagos to Dakar, Freetown, and Banjul flights will operate on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays with the superb Embraer 195E2 jets. Fly Airpeace from Lagos to Dakar, Freetown, Banjul, and enjoy a world-class travel experience on the brand new E195. For bookings, head to our website flyairpeace.com or download the Airpeace mobile app on Play Store or App Store. Airpeace, your peace, our goal.
Yes, my mic was off, isn't it? Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this day. Some of you guys on YouTube, some of you guys on Facebook, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Solomon Izang Shams, and it's so good to be with you, to be able to discuss issues and to look at issues from different angles where we get to ask questions, which is most important. I hope you're having a wonderful and a great day wherever you are. I know there are so many people from across the world that are here already. Thank you, Evelyn from Switzerland. I see you. And also I got Choni, Sherry here from Germany. Thank you. Helping Helen is there. Malia from the UK, and also we got Drea from Ottawa. I think that should be Canada, isn't it? Asima, thank you. Prunell, yes, good to be with you here after a while also. We got Mpo from Dipkloof in Soweto here in Johannesburg. From Maryland, it's Atmere. From Johannesburg, it's Maureen, and a whole lot of other great people who are here from Botswana, Hootman. We got from Norway. Yeah, all the way from Norway. Thank you so much, Malibu. Catching light. Finally, yes, it's been a while, isn't it? Malibu, good to be with you. Good to have you here. Sly from the beautiful country of Ghana. Their jollof rice is always number 2. Nigeria's jollof rice is always number 1. Just joking. Thank you guys for joining me. In case you haven't subscribed yet, can I encourage you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel right now? That is Solomon's Temple. Please go right there and subscribe right away, just so you can have access to other videos and also upcoming videos. That's very important. Well, you know, there's this story that's been making the rounds in Nigeria, and I want us to look at it. And I want us to look at it with the eye of divorce and remarriage. Whether you think about getting divorced and getting remarried, what does the scripture say, or what does the Bible say about getting divorced? What does the Bible say about getting remarried? Is it clear? What are the instructions? What is the template that we can follow? Because a lot of times you see people getting divorced, and they have scriptural backup for it. Whether you agree with them or you do not agree with them, they have scriptural backup for it. Whether it's authentic or they created that scriptural backup just to have an excuse to get divorced, is totally another thing. And sometimes you also get people who are Christians, since this is a Christian platform, sort of, getting remarried, but then you have people who are saying, no, you cannot remarry. Even if you get divorced, you cannot remarry. I grew up in a church where divorce is not allowed. So you get a lot, couples who have issues, they get separated. And if they want to continue to commune with the church, they cannot remarry. They cannot go into another relationship. So they say separated until the one person passes away, then the other person now is permitted to. Do I agree with it totally? No, I do not agree with it totally. Because there are different reasons why people get divorced, isn't it? So every case is different. So you have to look at every context in itself, because that is very important. So there's this. Prunell, thank you so much. She just gave 50 Canadian dollars for the work that I am doing, that we are all doing. Thank you so much for that donation. Appreciate it. And so there's this story that has been making the round in Nigeria about a pastor, some Moses Adeyo in Port Harcourt. He's an older guy. So I want to build a picture for you. He's an older guy. He's in his 50s, right? And the story was first publicly given by the husband of another lady the lady's name is Bride, right? So they've been married for 11 years. So they've been married for 11 years. They have, I think, 2 or 3 kids. So now he came out and said his pastor, the pastor that they are together, his pastor, right, took his wife away from him. His pastor took his wife away from him. And the pastors said it was based on the instructions of the Holy Spirit. So the pastor is an older guy. And this guy, I think the wife should be in her 30s. He should be in his 30s too, or maybe his 40s. So they're a bit younger than the pastor, who is a bit older. So the husband actually came out crying that he lost his wife to his pastor. So obviously, when you see that on the internet, obviously you would want to take the side of the husband first. But sometimes you want to wait to hear the other side. But the whole story, in a nutshell, is very complicated. I'm still trying to figure out actually what really happened. Because he came out crying. They took my wife. They took, I lost my kids, and it's my pastor who I trusted. He took my wife away from me. He said it was the Holy Spirit unction that asked him to do that. So he lost his wife. Right? That's according to him. So after a while, the next day or so, the mother of the wife now came and said, that's not the situation. The situation is different. Actually, this husband didn't treat his wife right. That's why she left. And the mother said quite a lot of stuff, And after a while again, the next day, the wife now came in crying profusely, saying, let me tell you the story of what actually happened. So she gave her side of the story. And I'm going to play just a short clip of her side of the story. And he contradicted her later. So the story is almost like every day, just you keep getting a different sort of information coming out. But for me, I just want us to use this story as a template to talk about divorce and getting remarried. Remarriage and divorce. Because it seems like there's one thing going on and didn't come to an end, and then there's another thing going on. And even the pastor, the older pastor himself, his son allegedly came out and said, no, my father isn't divorced with my mom yet. They're in court, but there's no divorce. So technically, my father is still married to my mother. So the new wife, who is the wife to the man who came out complaining first, is actually a second wife, because technically it makes her a second wife. So let's watch this video of when the wife came out crying profusely and trying to give her side of the story, right? Just try to follow, even if you don't understand it, just try to follow. I'm going to explain it a little bit later. Here we go.
And live my life. I'm no more interested. I have tried. This is the 4th time now. I can't be running and be coming back. I can't be running and coming back. That was how they said, okay, since you've decided to marry, we will not force you. Bright, our daughter says she's no longer interested. Whatever you've paid, they brought out the ledger, the family ledger, where they put down anything that has been done or that has been paid, bride price. They check it and they found out that Bright did not pay bride price. And I can remember vividly, before I returned after the 1 year, my uncle called him and said, you've not paid, we'll check in the list. There was no specific money. Come and do it. He just ignored it that he has married. Because the dowry is what they're supposed to refund him. Not like the money they bought for drink and all that. They said, we don't have anything. We wanted to refund you the dowry. Look at it. There is no dowry, specific amount, whether it's 1 naira or what. That was it. Before you know it, they told him, we would have collected the children self, but because we love you, okay, go and take care of the children. Let our daughter live. And make sure you don't come after her. He pleaded that they should give him more time to plead. They said, okay, we'll give you 2 weeks. If you're able to talk to her after 2 weeks, she accepted, then you will come back. But if she didn't accept after 2 weeks, leave her alone. If you come after her, we'll come after you. I went back to Lagos. I went back to Lagos after the meeting. I wasn't with Pastor Moses Adeyo. Pastor Moses Adeyo is living in the church premises in World Bank Assembly. There are people there. I'm living in Lagos. I wasn't living with him. I went back to Lagos to continue my life. He do call me until I blocked him. I told him, don't disturb me again. There is nothing between us. I have moved on. I will, if I want to live my life, I want to get married, whatever. He said, over his dead body would I get married? Over his dead body would I go to another man? Over his dead body. That is him for life and death, whatever. I told him, I have nothing to do with you. You don't own my life. I have my life to live. Before I came back 2 weeks ago. Even the day as I came back on Friday, he saw me on Sunday of it when they came to see the children in my mother's house. He saw me. He saw me. I wasn't in Pastor Moses' house. He said he doesn't know where I am. He saw me. And that, why did I say, I have nothing to do with you. If you want to take care of your children, these are our children. Take care of them. He saw me. It's my life. He dumped me in a dustbin. And all that, trying to bury me. Another man picked me up and tried to give me a new life. And he just stand up to tarnish my image. He stood up to render another man, to render an innocent man's name useless. Just because he chose to identify with me. He promised me that there is no man that wants to stand for me, that he will make them miserable. And that is what he's trying to do. But my God has frustrated his counsel. I am alive today and I'm happy. I don't want to ruin my happiness. But I pray that God will forgive you. I pray you find forgiveness before God, bright. I pray that God will forgive you for tarnishing a man of God's image. You choose to tarnish his image because I choose to live. You want to dump me in the ground and I refuse. Now there are so many women out there who are dying like this. And because of what the society will say, they choose to die. If I have died in Bright's house, people will say, why didn't you talk? There are women that are dying. Why didn't you live? I choose to live. And I choose to find a new life and start a new life. And I've committed the worst crime. Because I refused to die in Bright's house. I refused to go through the same pain and torture. My children are going through so much emotional torture now because of his attitude and things he has done to them. But I don't want to put them in the picture. I didn't do this for you to believe me. I don't need your belief. I don't need your opinion. I don't need your support. But the same way you guys carry evil news to go viral in the social media, I want you to tell the world that I'm a woman that have strived to survive out of this storm for 11 good years. He knows 11 years of pain, 11 years of torture, 11 years of disgrace and humiliation, 11 years of pain, 11 years of crying at night. He will come back anytime, any day. I'll open the door for him. He will abuse me and call me a useless woman. All these things happen. Now, the thing is, I choose to marry. I have the right to marry whosoever I want to. If I found love with anybody, it is my life, nobody's life. People should leave Pastor Moses Adeyo out of this. He's innocent. I'm begging you. Leave the man of God out of this. Let Bright face me. People should tell Bright to come and face me. Let him come and face me. Let's talk. I have some records of his threats. Let him come out and face me. I didn't want to talk, but he has pushed me to the wall. He's trying to make me to go viral as a bad woman. And lastly, before I go, everybody is sympathizing with him. He's a free man right now. As many young ladies who are desiring husbands, Bright is free. I challenge you to go and marry Bright. So many of you that have daughters and sisters, go to his page, go and marry Bright. If you're able to live with him for 3 months, then you come back to me and shook my hand. Go and marry Bright. He has his friends who knows this story. His club members know his story very well. Go and ask him what happened. Go and ask him what happened. Go and ask people that knows me. They all know. Go to
So sorry, guys. I just wanted to play that just so you know. That was a bit of the end, but I want to play you a little bit of what she actually said. Right? Initially, just so you can understand the state of the marriage according to her. Right? So this is a short one here.
Borrow money. I borrowed money in my school. They are still there. The debt of the money I borrowed, I'm still paying it till date. The money I borrowed is this pastor that is helping me now to foot those bills. I borrowed money for his sake, his children's school fees that have heaped like this. I'm paying it one by one. I've not finished paying the debt till now. Go to Holy Child School Rumukusha and ask. They are all aware of the story. It didn't end there. Now, after everything, we come to that place. We come to the house where we are living right now. Now the thing is, feeding is a problem in the house. Ask Bright if he has given me upkeep since 11 years I've married him. Even if it is 5,000 naira upkeep, go and ask him. Go and ask Bright if he has done anything. But I don't complain. It's normal. He may not have it. I keep living my life the way I'm living it. I keep surviving the way I'm surviving it. It didn't stop there. This same Bright, after 1 year, I returned back to him. Where he took me to the church, he has met one church he wants to be attending. I should live with him and all that. I left with him. Now, the issue now is, at the end of it all, I came back. We started living outside the family. Brian started from where he stopped. He started the worst. The worst is that I shouldn't go to work. I should be a housewife. During the pandemic, I shouldn't go anywhere. He called people. He said these men are chasing me and chasing men. He saw anybody around me, he will nail them. He has done so many things. He chased people that call me mother away from me, the youths, the teenagers. He said they're all sleeping with me. That was it. So he told me that the only way for him to give me a total support into my music, because I have gone to the studio to do a skeletal work of my music, he said not in his house. Not in his house. Now, the issue now is that he said I have affairs outside, that there are many men that are chasing me and all that, that I must take an oath for him. I must take an oath for him. He said I should take an oath. That's the only way you allow me to have peace in his house. I now begged him, if I take an oath, the record of the oath is with me. I recorded it. I have record of it the day I took the oath. I said, if I take an oath for you, will that make me to be a free woman? I can go. He said, I can go to the moon. He will be sleeping. I should take an oath that there is no man that is going to sleep with me, blah, blah. I said, is it for both of us? He said, no, it's just him alone. I took that oath for Bryce just to prove to him that I am innocent. I took oath against my faith. I took oath against my faith just to prove to him that I don't have any skeleton in my cupboard. And I asked him, do you have peace? And I say, I have peace. But that is the worst. He started doing the worst. I'll go to borrow food outside. I'll go and, no, just negligence. Sometimes I will go carry the children and buy them food for them to eat. Me, I will stay hungry. A neighbor will just give me food to eat. I will just be surviving it. I said, enough is enough. I'm not going to die. He looked at me one morning. He said, there is no marriage between us. That I'm just in his house wasting his time. That I'm a smelling thing. He chased me out of our room. That I'm a smelling thing. That smelling thing, he called smelling thing. He threw it in the garbage. He threw me in the garbage thinking I'm going to die. He says he's make my life miserable. That when last I hear about his name, I will run away. That's what he told me. And I told him I'm not going to die. That he's going to make my life miserable and all that. Now, the last straw that breaks the camel's back is that I refuse taking all these things. He told me vividly that number one, he's going to put acid in my cream. I don't want to bring my children into this because even my children became scared and they were crying. My son will embrace me. My son of 4 years will embrace me and say, Mommy, don't worry, I will take care of you. He abused me before my children. I don't talk. He called me a weak woman. And you came on social media to tarnish an innocent man's image. You came on social media bright. You've done your worst. You want to get fame. You bend to your knee that you're going to destroy me. But let me tell you, this is my rising moment. You bend on your knees that over your dead body, will you see me standing right and fulfilling my destiny? You throw me in the garbage, but the seed you throw in the garbage find a means of growing and becoming something. I decided to leave his house. How? When I left his house, one day he just locked me up and said, I'm not going for church program. That night, he locked the door.
Anyway, so there's quite a lot of details in there regarding the two of them. So obviously, you know that the marriage was not really great the way that it should be. You know, it was a very unhappy marriage. And obviously, maybe the husband was a typical, sort of like, the kind of husband that feels you can dominate the wife from what she is saying. That's actually what happened. But remember, they've been married for, they were married for how long? For 11 years, So this is bride and her, the day they got married. So they had a traditional marriage and they also had a church marriage. So I want you to follow. They got married traditionally and they got married, the white wedding, in church. So this is like the church marriage, right? So they were married for 11 years and they had 2 kids. This is herself and bride and the 2 kids. So listening to her and listening to the mother, they say they discovered that he never paid lobola. There was actually no bride price because they had to go to the village, get traditional leaders and leaders in the village involved and say, let's pay him back. Because traditionally in the Igbo language, they're Igbo, obviously they're from Rivers, right? So I'm not sure if they're really from there or they live there. But traditionally,
in a culture, that part of Nigeria, when you get divorced, you have to return the lobola, which is the bride price. But then the elders now said, no, in actual fact, he never actually paid a bride price. Right? So here you are, been married for 11 years, producing 2 kids, living together for 11 years, and then you discover, according to them, that there was no bride price. Should that be the end of the marriage? Should that be the end of a marriage? Is that enough to say we annul the marriage because there's no bride? I know traditionally that's enough, but I'm saying from a biblical perspective. Because remember, she's got married to a pastor, and a pastor who is older and wiser. And if he heard that story, he should be able to understand and say, look, but there's still a marriage here. And even the son of the pastor, so she got married to the pastor, and this is her and the pastor. They just recently got married last week. So this is her in her first marriage with bride, all decked up. And this is her last week with the older pastors, Pastor Moses Adio. That sort of transition, was it healthy? She, as early as April, they were still trying to sort out. The family gave them time to talk and try to sort out themselves, which never really happened between herself and bride. So, and this is what we are now. We're in August, and now she's married. How she met, how they started the relationship with the pastor, was it during the marriage, after the marriage? You know, when you hear from her, when you hear from the husband, it's totally a different thing. But one thing is, in 2000, during his birthday, the pastor's birthday in 2000, she made a video to wish him a happy birthday. That is the pastor. And that video in itself, for me, I'm not really comfortable with that video. For someone who was still married, though you understand that she wasn't happy, or maybe someone who, or maybe it's out of love for her pastor, appreciating him or whatever. But here is the video. You watch the video and you decide for yourself.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to my father. Happy birthday to you. Wow. Papa, this is your day. I love you. You're a wonderful father. I've come to celebrate you. Papa, you are an amazing father. In fact, having an encounter with you have really changed my whole life. It has changed my mind, my sense of reasoning, my belief. You know, it has changed my way of talking and all that. Papa, you are amazing. I want to shout out to the whole world and tell them how wonderful you are. You are a father, you are a daddy, you are a prophet to me, you are a preacher of the word that comes out of you is power. Like the one I had today. Wow, they are wonderful. They are great. They are powerful. They are the ones that can keep us. Therefore, I say, Papa, may God bless you. Papa, you will live to eat the fruits of your labor. Papa, the world will celebrate you. Papa will love you from the depth of our heart. Happy birthday to you, my father. Congratulations. Love you. Mwah.
She's blowing him kisses. And you see the problems with papas sometimes.
And sorry, that video was in last year, 2020, not, I think initially I said 2020, last year. It cannot be 2000. So this was a video she made to wish him a happy birthday last year. There was quite a lot of like, would I be comfortable with my wife making that kind of video for my pastor? I don't think so. I don't even think my pastor would be comfortable with that. You know, blowing you kisses and all that kind of stuff. I know sometimes people express their love differently, you know, in different ways and all that. But I think sometimes there need to be boundaries, just so you don't get the wrong signal or just so you don't have the wrong intention. But you see, my thing is, You've been married for 11 years with 2 kids. So because of the lack of the lobola, the bride price that you discover that wasn't paid, let's go with their story now, because we're probably going to speak to the husband and he's going to give us a different story. You now said there is actually technically no marriage between the two of you. And you went and married a pastor, an older guy. I don't know if you were like me. A lobola or a bride price is supposed to be a gesture between the two families. That is actually not the main unifactor. You know, if there's any word like that. That's not the main uniting element that decides whether you stay married or you don't stay married. That's not the main reason. Right? Sorry guys, I went and drew blood today. So as a Christian, I'm trying to understand it. So because the bride price, the lobola wasn't there, you discover wasn't there. So that's the end of a marriage. Traditionally, if you're a traditional person, I understand and I'll respect that. But if you subscribe to scriptures, you know that the covenant is much more than the money that was paid or what was given. It came from you being before a pastor, before God, and before witnesses to go into a covenant. That automatically means you're married. There are a lot of cultures that do not pay bride price or lobola. Does that mean that they're not married? They are married. That's their culture. But you see, the biblical culture needs to override all the cultures that we have. And I thought maybe the older pastor, who she got married to now, would be able to bring in wisdom and see that, look, there's actually still this marriage between you and your husband is still valid. You know, somebody called me yesterday telling me about a problem with her husband and all that kind of stuff. And I asked her the question, is your husband abusing you? No. Is your husband cheating on you? No. Is your husband, she just said her husband is lazy and she wants to leave him and all that. She said, what do I suggest? I said, I'm sorry. You cannot leave your husband because he's lazy. You want to leave him? What if tomorrow he changes? Is he abusing you physically? If he's abusing you physically and your life is in danger, obviously you need to separate yourself and try to sort these things out. If he's into adultery and all that kind of stuff, those are legit biblical reasons why you can look at these things. But I said, no, I'm sorry, but I cannot advise you to do that, to leave him. And the son of the same pastor who married her, the older guy, actually made a statement. And this is his which one is, yeah, this one is a bit too little. On his Facebook page, he said, so you can see his name there, Peter Adesoji Adio. So they share the same surname. So he said, media, please take note. My mother, Mercy Adio, has not yet been divorced to her husband, my father, Pastor Moses Adio. No settlement made yet. The matter is still in court. Right? Tina Adeo is now the second wife, while my mother is the first wife. So there is some sort of polygamy going on in that relationship, and he acknowledged it. And polygamy, we know, biblically speaking, polygamy is not an option for us. I mean, you can disagree with me. Some people disagree with me, but monogamy is what the Bible subscribes for us. So even if you had problem, Tina, that is the wife, had problem with bride, now you want to marry Pastor Moses. Does the Bible give us reasons to get divorced? Yes, there are reasons to get divorced. Is the Bible explicitly clear on remarriage? Yes and no. Because the place where actually the Bible talks about getting married again, is when he was talking to younger widows. Because the Bible does not even encourage divorce in the first place. So the part of the plan is not for us to get divorced. But then that's why later on you would see where they spoke about that is in getting remarried in when he was talking to younger widows in Romans chapter 7 verse 1 to 3, and also First Corinthians 7 8 and 9, going down all the way to 5 to 1 11 to 16. And he talks about the only qualification for you to get married as a younger widow is for whoever you're going to get married to be a Christian. So the Bible doesn't, let's be honest, the Bible doesn't talk about just about remarriage that much. Because you have to understand God's heart. God's heart for us in the first place is actually not to get divorced. Because the divorce is painful. Divorce destroys the husband and the wife. It doesn't just destroy one person. That's not the way that it works. It destroys the husband, the wife, and if there are children, also they're going to be affected one way or the other. But like I said, we are sinful people. You get married as a woman, and the only reason why the Bible actually says you should get divorced is when there is adultery. It doesn't say you should get divorced when there is abuse. It wasn't clear on that. But obviously, we know that God loves for you to stay alive. God would not want you to stay in danger. So if your husband is consistently abusing you physically and your life is in danger, obviously you need to step aside. You need to get separated, try to sort it out. And if you cannot sort it out, obviously you cannot force him into the marriage, and there's going to be a divorce. So this story, the way it's going is just you moving from, and all of it is just kind of like happening in a church context. Because remember, the husband said he met the pastor and he introduced the wife to the pastor. They're like together in church. And then the pastor now got married. He was obviously married and he left his wife. We actually know why the pastor left his wife in the first place. What happened? Why are they separated? Why are they in court trying to sort that out? So there are different, marriage, guys, is somebody says, don't get married for happiness, get married for you didn't get married for happiness, you got married for marriage is not for happiness. Marriage is for holiness. There are a lot of things that normally you cannot tolerate if you're a single person, but once you get into marriage, you have to endure and tolerate. There's going to be abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, right? And sometimes even psychological abuse can damage person. It might not damage me, but it can damage the next person because we are not mentally the same. So what should we do in the course of that? When you've been emotionally and psychologically abused every single time, you sort of tend to begin to lose who you are. Actually, you begin to question who God created you to be. You begin to question yourself. You've seen people actually taking their lives, women or men taking their lives because they've been psychologically abused, emotionally abused in the marriage. Not physically abused, but emotionally abused. Telling you you're nothing, telling you you're this, you're that. You keep hearing that every day for a long time. So, people would look at this story to actually say, maybe Tina actually had a relationship with the pastor even before she left her husband bride, because the marriage was so sudden, and also the pastor is separated from his wife. So there's actually a gap there. Maybe if the pastor was still not, maybe the pastor was still with his wife, Tina would also have no place to go, so she wouldn't even leave her husband. She would just try to make sure, let's try to make this work. So when we see these kind of things, we need to ask questions from a traditional perspective, cultural perspective, from a biblical perspective. Let's understand it culturally, but then let's look at it biblically. What does it say? Are we making decisions? Are we making decisions because of what we want? Or are we really being transparent to God and to people about what we need? Yes, Tina has a lot of emotional needs that obviously it seems like Bride didn't give her. Not just emotional needs, but even, you remember she said she wanted to sing. She's a singer, but he wasn't supportive. But others, you see, when you get into a marriage, there's no any other way out. There's no easy way out. For me, the only reason why I would recommend divorce is actually when there is adultery and you have to choose to leave or not to leave. I always tell people, if my wife cheats on me today, I'm not going to leave her. I will stay there and work and try to make it work. Because I believe in the covenant. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in loving and making it work. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy. But I've heard of other marriages that went the same way. Abuse is another reason. But what sort of abuse? Is it just because once the covenant you're in there, there's a lot that you're going to face. It's like joining the army. You're going to be shot. They will shoot at you. You're going to be bruised. You're going to lose your limb, but you have to stay there and keep fighting. And by the grace of God, somewhere, somehow later on, things are going to fall into place, hopefully. Or you're trying to make sure you keep part of your covenant with God. Remember, marriage is a covenant with God first, before your spouse. All of you look up to God, not to each other. You look up to God. So once you begin to look at each other, then you totally missed it. You begin to deal with each other, then you totally missed it. You're supposed to deal with God to reach each other. That's just the way that it is. But it's complicated, and I do hope, I do hope that they're going to be able to sort that out, right? I do hope that they're going to be able to come to, at least, even if they're going to continue the way that they are, bring certain things to a close. Bring certain things to a close between the three of them and all the family, because you don't even know what's really going on now. And there's quite a lot of marriage. Some of you guys have been in marriages where there's a lot of abuse and you're still there, don't know what to do. Some of you have run from it. People have lost their lives in marriages because there's a lot of abuse. I don't recommend that at all. I would be the first to tell a woman, leave your husband. The last time I saw you, you had a black eye. The next time I saw you, you were in a hospital, but you were just lying and not telling people the truth of the abuse that's going on. No, your life is in danger. If you die, who's going to take care of the kids? You think God would want you to die? And also, you have to save the husband because you don't want him to be a murderer. So you take her out of the house because he's going to end up being a murderer, even though that's not his intention, but his anger would take him to, and then you're going to have casualties. And there are kids, and kids are just going to be like, who's going to raise the kids with that kind of experiences? Marriage is something you have to fight for. and fight and fight and fight. But there are certain things, one or two reasons that you say, look, I need to step aside. It shouldn't be financial. Because your husband is lazy, you want to leave? I don't see why. Because your husband is a drunkard and you want to leave? Why? If when he's drunk, does he abuse you? Does he go after other women? If those things are there, then you would consider. First step, separation. For how long? Nobody knows. Still trying to make things work out. Still trying to see if it's going to change. Separation gives you opportunity, both of you guys, to reflect and to see things differently. And separation has worked for a lot of people. But just jumping straight to divorce, sometimes it's just not going to work out. But marriage is difficult, but at the same time, we have to do it biblical way. We have to give it our best shot. We don't have to think it's easy, because right now we're getting a picture of thinking marriage is easy. So one or two reasons, no, I want out. Marriage is difficult. It's two people from entirely different backgrounds coming together. Marriage is difficult. So you have to stay there, not endanger your life again, but you have to stay there. You have to know that when you want out, there must be biblical reasons. And what are your biblical reasons? Again, I do hope that they're going to be able to sort themselves out. There's quite a lot of comments here. I haven't been through the comments today. Quite a lot of comments here. And the video that when I was watching, she was actually saying, no, this man of God. She's calling her husband man of God. He used to be a man of God. Now he's a husband. So she's still man of God. Looking for the comments. What is he saying? Isn't it saying, Solomon, I disagree with you. Please never advise an abused woman to stay and fight. No. I'm not abusing and I'm not encouraging an abused woman. When we say abuse, also we have to define what sort of abuse we're talking about. But again, if your life is in danger, if you're losing yourself, there's no point to stay there. That's why I said separation is always a first step to take. Christine is saying we tend to see our spouse's mistake and ignore ours. It's a two-way street. Yeah. Tony, your own view is, Tony is saying bride has to take the two kids for DNA test to ascertain if those kids are actually his. Sar is saying, hi Solomon, Uncle Solomon, I've been following your programs. You have been an inspiration in my Christian life. Thank you. Let's see. I'm going to take just a few comments. Abibatu Kaba is saying psychological abuse can be worse than physical abuse. Yes, indeed. Because you don't see it, because it's not physical, doesn't mean psychological abuse can damage you, you can actually go mental, you can actually go mental. Not good at all. Abuse is abuse, but you just have to, each context is different, and you have to look at it and advise. You cannot just say, you've been abused, okay, leave. But you have to look at it, is there danger? Is there a way to work things out? Is there a way to intervene and give some sort of rehabilitation to the abuse and to the abuser? Because the abuser also needs some sort of rehabilitation. Is there a way to get some sort of counseling and all that kind of stuff? After some time, does it work? Is it not working? If it's not working, then obviously you have to look at other option, which is, get divorced. Grace B said, Uncle Solomon, you're absolutely right. If you're in an abusive relationship, no matter how strong you are, depression will definitely occur. You will lose yourself. You will become who God doesn't want you to become, and that's what happens with all this emotional, psychological abuse. You tend to begin to allow Satan to come in, and you begin to believe lies that the abuser is telling you as a husband. And that's not, God would not want you to be in that state or to be in that kind of environment. No, God would not want you to be there. And a lot of people feel remarriage is not biblical. And I think I understand why they think that way. Because at the end of the day, the Bible only talks about remarriage from a perspective of a young widow who lost her husband, not from somebody who got divorced. But the Bible is not explicit about it. But what can we as humans use wisdom to draw out and look at the context and say, this is the best possible reason. This is the best possible way, rather, to go. That's another way to look at it. By the way, women abuse men too. Wives abuse husbands too. So we've been talking about women quite a lot. So, but it would be good to hear the husband's side of the story a little bit more. That way we're gonna be able to understand. Yeah, let's say here says it. She said men and women shouldn't abuse each other. Period. It's as simple as that. I have never abused my wife physically, verbally. I don't know, because of the kind of home I grew up in. I never saw my dad and my mom in that kind of state. My dad telling my mom, dismissing my mom, or speaking to her in a very disrespectful way. That's not the kind of home that I grew up in. So that sort of have a lot of influence over me, verbally abusing her, demeaning her in front of other people and all that kind of stuff, so but we all have different backgrounds. Some of you guys come from that kind of background and you have to deal with that. Now, GH said, I was abused physically and emotionally by my husband. I wanted to leave, but prophet said I should not leave. Well, my husband is changing and is changed. We have not gotten there yet, but God is doing. Hallelujah. That's what I'm talking about. You give it your best shot. You give it your best. You see, that one thing with the abuser is also a victim. It's controversial what I just said now. The abuser is also a victim. The abuser has a past, has an experience that he believed in and held it as a truth, but is not the truth. So he's become a victim of also his family, victim of his values, victim of his lack of biblical understanding, victim of his influence from his friends, victim of alcohol, because alcohol normally encourages people to abuse. So the abuser is also a victim. So if you see the abuser as a victim, which is very difficult, it's difficult for me to see the abuser as a victim. Because for me, the abused is the victim. But if you look at it and dig deep, the abuser is also a victim. Probably a victim of his society where he grew up in. You got married to this guy, you don't know exactly how he grew up and the kind of values that he was embedded in about a husband, the role of a husband, about a father. And then all of a sudden, 5 years into the marriage, certain things that are coming out, you're like, but I didn't know he has it. But it's part of his values, where he's coming from. So family background and the society where you grew up in. Did my parents ever disagree? Yes, of course, I know they disagree, but they never done it in front of us. I mean, they disagreed in front of us, but they never they never done it like only a few times, and they never done it like arguing and disrespecting each other, verbally abusing each other. It's a very alien value culture to me because of that home that I came out from. But we all have different backgrounds. And because of that, it's difficult for me, no matter how my wife says I'm so quick to say I'm sorry. That's the way I am. From my family values, and then when I met Jesus, Jesus gave me an added biblical values to add to the one that I was privileged to get from my family. So my wife doesn't abuse me. We haven't abused each other in any way, but my wife can abuse me all she wants. I will disagree with her, but I'm not going to abuse her back because I don't know how to. And also because I know it's wrong. I'm not gonna do because somebody's doing something that's wrong, and then I would retaliate by doing something that's wrong. Come on. We're supposed to be on the same team. We're supposed to be partners in this. So wisdom would say, no, hold on. It's difficult, but that's the way to go. Anyway, I think we are okay. Here's GH actually is concluding. She said, yes, he was. His father abandoned him. His mother died when he was 10 years old. He was also abused emotionally. It was very hard. I grew up with parents married 35 years before my father died. Wow. So you came from a very stable home. Maybe that's why you stayed there for longer and gave him a chance. And I like what you said there. He was also abused. A lot of men were abused growing up. So the abused become the abuser. That's the way that it is. The abused become the abuser. Gloria is saying, not many men left like you with your mindset, Uncle Solomon. I think there are still men, where, okay, you're privileged, you got this from your family, but you see, even if you don't come from a home where you got good values and good examples when it comes to being a father and being a husband, the Bible is always there to teach us. It will take time. It will take trying and making mistakes. But at the end of the day, the Bible is the perfect ground for us to learn and to be able to disassociate ourselves and relearn to not be abusive. Because now you have to unlearn being an abuser and learn to love and learn to be patient and learn to tolerate your wife and learn to love your wife in the midst of when things are not even going on well. The same thing with the wife anyway, not just the husband. But the abuser, if you go and look at their history, they've been abused. There is something there. The abuser has a pain. So when he abuses you, he's actually reacting to a pain. What's the pain? You don't know. And I might not even know what the pain is. Because it's not normal for somebody who you married, who's told you he loved you so many times to abuse you. Is actually telling you this person has a deep issue. There's a pain somewhere, maybe 10 years ago, pain 20 years ago from a family, pain of telling him he's inferior, pain of self-esteem, pain of emotional verbal abuse, pain somebody told him he'll be no good, pain of being sexually abused, pain of always following and never be leading, but now that he's a husband, he feels he can lead the way that he wants to lead. Pain of alcohol abuse. Sorry, guys, we can go on and on around this, but thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you. I'll be back again later. And thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, Solomon's Temple. Please like this video and share with others. And let's continue to pray for, when you pray for marriages, I think this morning we're actually praying for marriages. My wife and I, sometimes we just pray randomly for marriages that are struggling because we love to see healthy marriages. When you pray for marriages, remember to, to put these guys in, in your prayer. Even the older pastor that married Tina, he himself, he has a pain. That's the only way we can love people, even in their mess, if we understand the pain that they're dealing with for them to make certain decisions. We don't agree with the decision, but we are acknowledging that they have a pain in their lives and they have to deal with it. And we have to understand that also. So thank you so much, guys. God bless you, and catch you again later.
Marriage. Of course, marriage is not your normal bump and face kind of relationship. It brings both excitement and disappointments. If you find yourself married in community of property and often delayed in your business transactions and dealings, worry no more. Because Masinya Attorneys uses the law to help you change from in community of property to out of community of property and vice versa. Call Masinya Attorneys today on 084 383 7747. We will sort you out with a high court application, and of course you get to keep your spouse. That's Masinya Attorneys on 084 383 7747.